In BBC Points West tonight.
Left for dead in the street. A 15-year-old boy dies after being the victim of a hit-and-run driver.
He'd be the first person there for, if we needed him, for any help and everything, so he's a really good friend.
We're live at this laboratory in Bristol where technicians are testing sample from travellers just returned from Mexico. They can provide the answer as to whether or not people have contracted swine flu.
Also tonight, plans to recover the bodies of thousands of World War I soldiers buried behind enemy lines.
And the spaniel who's found his spring again. Three-legged Bailey shows he can still become a champ.
Good evening. A teenager has been killed after a hit-and-run collision in the centre of Bristol.
Troy Atkinson, who was 15, died from his injuries after being struck by the car in Cabot Circus. A man has been arrested.
Today, as the police appealed for witnesses, dozens of Troy's school friends have been paying tribute to him. Many gathered at the spot where the accident happened, as David Garmston now reports.
Friends and flowers have been arriving here all day. A mountain of tributes now to a young man whose life was cut so tragically short here last night.
A teenager in town at 7 o'clock on a spring evening when he was hit by a car next to the Harvey Nichols store.
A black Mercedes vehicle's come along Penn Street, possibly jumped a red light and collided with a member of the public that was crossing Lower Castle Street.
The vehicle didn't stop and the driver left the scene as a boy lay fatally injured in the road. He died in hospital in the early hours, and as the news spread, his school in Withywood emptied as dozens of friends came to lay flowers.
Our hearts just goes out to his family and all his loved ones.
And to his mum, Kim, and his brother, and all his family.
He was a really special boy. I wouldn't have wished it upon anyone, what happened to him.
Especially not him at all.
The victim is Troy Atkinson from Hartcliffe, only 15 years old. These pictures are from an internet site set up by another friend, Sophie Williams, in his honour.
He was just one of them kids that everybody loved. Heart of gold on him. Everyone loved him. I can't believe it's happened.
A 7-year-old black Mercedes was found abandoned at Dormer Road in Eastville last night. It matches the description of the car that hit Troy.
I'm keen to speak to anyone who may have witnessed what happened here yesterday evening at the junction of Penn Street and Broadweir, or where the vehicle was abandoned in Dormer Road in Eastville at 7:30 last night.
It's an appeal that's backed by Troy's friends.
I just want the person that done it to come forward for Troy. Troy was like one of my best mates, and he's gonna be missed by everyone. He's such a good kid.
Just weird, I was chatting to him the other day, and then went in school earlier and someone told me he's dead.
A 28-year-old man has been arrested and is being questioned tonight in connection with Troy's death. These teenagers are now planning to raise money to help Troy's mum pay for the funeral.
Troy Atkinson was a popular boy, a promising rugby player with a family and lots of mates. Today they're mourning a young man whose future was wiped out in a few seconds by a driver who didn't even stop.
David Garmston there. A 12-year-old girl in the Bath and North East Somerset area has become one of the youngest mothers in the country. Now, we can't give any more details about the girl or her baby for legal reasons in order to protect their identities. But we can say that the alleged father is a 17-year-old. He's now been arrested and bailed pending further inquiries. This is the latest case of children having children, but you'll also remember this story. In February, 13-year-old Alfie Patton hit the headlines when he claimed to have fathered a little girl. The news shocked the nation as the 4-foot teenager looked more like an 8-year-old. And 3 years ago, a girl from Scotland became Britain's youngest ever mother at the age of 11. Now, in the eyes of the law, sexual intercourse with a child under the age of 13 is classed as rape, based on the principle that they are not yet capable of consent. In this latest case in the West, a court order has been granted to protect the private lives of the girl and her family involved. Chris.
Several people in the West are expecting test results for the swine flu virus at the centre of the global health alert. One family from Wiltshire, who recently arrived back from Mexico, is being told to avoid contact with other people. Well, test samples from the region are examined at the Health Protection Agency laboratories in Bristol. And John Maguire is there for us now. John, good evening. A busy day for staff there, I fear.
Very busy, Chris. As you can see, they're carrying on working into the evening. They'll have dealt with around 30 samples throughout the day. Now, all of the samples that come here are from patients right across the West, people who've just returned from travelling in Mexico. The samples will come here. This lab is part of a network across the country. So, for example, that positive test that we've just heard about from the young girl down in Torbay in Devon earlier today, that would have been initially identified at this lab. So this is very much the local focus for the West, really, of the battle against this influenza outbreak. It's, I suppose, an idea of how this story has developed, and once again it's evidence that a story that initially started in Mexico, so many thousands of miles away, can have an effect right back here at home. With the eyes of the world on Mexico, Alex Orozco's thoughts are there too. He's listening online to a radio station from his home city and has been in constant contact with his family. They were able to attend his grandfather's funeral, but he was not.
The mass services that they had to celebrate his death, people can't hold hands, kiss each other. I couldn't go straight away, but even just to go and support the family, they can't. It's impossible. It's difficult.
Although his shop in Bristol feels a long way from Mexico, that's where these goods come from. He's been unable to contact some of his suppliers, and he's concerned. Musicians Candia and Tony McCormack were given the all-clear this afternoon after returning home to Gloucester from Mexico. But Diane Williams and her family from Swindon are still waiting for their results after falling ill while on holiday.
You know, we didn't feel concerned, you know, that it would kill us or anything that severe, but it does make you're concerned that you've spent 2 weeks feeling unwell, and, you know, it's been killing people in the country that you've been in.
The first flight of the season from Bristol to the Mexican resort of Cancun, scheduled for May the 8th, has been cancelled, and the situation is under review. For those affected by the swine flu outbreak, at this stage, perhaps the worst aspect is the lack of information, the not knowing. Well, this is the place where the answers are being provided. Let's talk to Dr. David Carrington from the Health Protection Agency. A very busy period, I know. What role are your staff playing here?
Well, they're playing a role right on the front line of infectious diseases and clinical microbiology. We undertake a diagnosis of infectious diseases, particularly virology, in this particular institution. And of course, during this time, we're very much focused on swine influenza diagnosis.
And it's not only a case of just providing positive results in conjunction with the other labs as well. What does it do to inform future battles against any other outbreaks?
Well, the one thing that we do here is find the viruses, detect them when they're in the community. Now, we're alerted to them because patients become ill, get clinical symptoms of influenza, and general practitioners and hospital physicians would be concerned to make an accurate diagnosis. So we do that, but we not only detect these viruses, but we aim to collect them and culture them so that we'll make those viruses available to the wider health community internationally. So we contribute viruses to the WHO.
And briefly, how different is this to the day job, as it were?
Well, at times it can be very different. We are the Health Protection South West Regional Laboratory, and on a day-to-day basis we're doing clinical microbiology, sorting out infections in the hospital setting. We are a health protection laboratory, and so we look for those communicable diseases of a serious nature. And so at certain times of the year, such as this, we're actively hunting down those serious infections and actually coping to not only detect them but characterise them and make those diagnoses available to clinicians so that they can be adequately treated very quickly indeed.
All right. Thank you very much indeed, Dr. Carrington. I'll let you get back to work. Lots of work, as you can see, to still carry on with here at the lab tonight. Vital work, of course, as we just heard, not only concerning us locally, but of course around the world. Back to you.
Thank you, John. Well, it's Wednesday, of course, and you're watching BBC Points West with Chris and Alex.
Stay with us, as there's still much more to come tonight, including...
Buckingham Palace Detachment, present arms!
They'll soon be changing guard at Buckingham Palace. We meet the soldiers preparing for a royal engagement.